tell me to. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started if y'all are okay with that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take too much of your valuable time because I know y'all are busy and real estate never sleeps, never stops. Isn't that right? So I think I know most of you, but I will go ahead and reintroduce myself again. I'm Lori Higgins with Mobile Oil Credit Union. This is Brad Greer. He is in our mortgage department. And so we wanted to just kind of share some information about you. I thank you so much, Kristen, for letting us come in. We are a preferred partner with RE/MAX, and so have information in all of your locations. In fact, I'm getting ready to go to Mont Belvieu, not soon, but in the next couple of weeks to go work with that office as well. So we just want to be here to help you in anything that you have, whatever that may be. So credit score is a big topic, and it has been a big topic for years. We started our financial education program called Smart Change about 9 years ago with credit score, and it doesn't go away. And not that I want it to, because we talk about this all the time. And I love getting in with realtors because this is your life, isn't it? Talking, but I'm sure all of your buyers have 800. So, don't they? Oh, we just wish, wouldn't we? We wish they were all 800. But this is great information because credit score management information, there's a lot of myths out there. And so that's why we like to get in and just teach and give you the tools and the resources. So that's just one more notch in your belt that you have that you can help your clients, because there are a lot of myths out there. And so we like to talk about this to make sure we're all on the same page and you're giving good information to your buyers. So you all have a handout there in your book. It's yours to take with you. It's the bullet points of everything that I'll talk about. If you need to refer back, I have extra copies back there. If this is something you might want to share with your clients, please take all that you would like. So let me see if I just, do I arrow?
The mouse goes away.
Okay.
It's like in full screen. There you go.
There we go.
You just click on the screen and it'll move.
Click here on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, how nice. Okay. All righty. So let me go.
Oh, sorry, on the trackpad.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There we go.
You're good.
All right. What am I? Now see, what am I doing?
Go ahead and press on it. It's on the trackpad. There you go.
That's right.
Perfect.
See, I have a Mac, but it's
So I don't have the fancy one. It's just the
no,
regular one.
mine is it's a big one. I don't have the book here. So, okay. So let's talk about credit score. I'm going to just start at the very beginning. I know you probably know all of this, but we may be able to pick up a few little tips here and there. So the credit score is that 3-digit number that we all have, that we use the Fair Isaac Corporation developed this model, and the 3 major credit bureaus, use that model, and they basically give you a credit score based on what you do with your history. And we'll talk about what all those things are that make your score go up, that make your score go down. And that score is what we as lenders look at to basically say, how likely is it that you're going to pay us back if we loan you money for a home, a car, a boat, what have you? And so we have to look at that number, and that credit score then determines, of course, your rate and the lending information. So you can see here on our scale, we all are somewhere between 300 and 850 is actually where our scores go. We want to be as high as possible. Obviously, the higher the score, that's a low risk that you would be. The lower the risk you are, better odds of getting a loan. Higher the score, the lower the interest rate. So by having that good high credit score can save you a ton of money when you get ready to borrow. That's what most people think a credit score is, and it is. There are other parts to the credit score as well that we're going to talk about why it's important to protect that score, not just because you want to buy your perfect dream home, not just because you want to get a new car or replace a car, whatever it may be. A credit score, having a good credit score can save you money because you're paying lower interest. It's also a snapshot. It's not, you're a 750 today, you're going to be that tomorrow, you're going to be that next week, you're going to be that next year. It's a snapshot. It's basically the bulk of your score is your last 24 months history. And that's what we look at when we sit down with people and try and help them understand their credit score. We have a program called the CSA. It's a credit score analysis, and anyone can come into our credit union, or we have a great mobile app, Mobile Oil X. You can live video chat with any of our representatives as well. You could apply for a loan, check on your, make a change to your account, all right here from your office on your phone or your tablet, however you would like to do that. But a CSA is something that we pull that credit report and we look at that credit report. We go over that with them, with you, and we explain, what's on your credit report, how we might be able to help you raise that score. And so if you have buyers that are kind of borderline or need a little bit of help, please send them our way. It's a soft pull, so it does not cost them points. And we can then show them a 60-day plan and a 12-month plan. So they will leave with information. They'll leave with probably one of these brochures here, and they will show them, if you do this, this, and this in 60 days, this is where you can be. And then in a year, this is where you can be. So you know that when buyers are not exactly where they want to be, sometimes it takes 6 months to a year to get them depending upon where they are. So that's what we look at. That last 24 months is the bulk of our scores. And so it can change depending upon what we do. It takes about 30 to 60 days for things to show up on that credit report. So if you do something good to make your score go up, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be 30 to 60 days. So it takes a little bit of time. Same thing if a score drops. It's like, what happened? What happened? Well, you kind of have to, what did I do 30, 60 days ago? So, and you guys know the big three major credit bureaus out there, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Another thing that's important to know, especially with your clients, is you want a lender to report to all three bureaus. We do. Mobile Oil Credit Union reports to all three. We don't pull, well, we pull from all three on mortgages, but on just regular lending, we just pull from one. But if you don't report to all three, that's what makes your scores a little bit different. So some lenders don't report at all. Some lenders only report to one or two. Well, if they report to two and that lender pulls from that third one, that sometimes their score might be lower because it's not all reported, and that's what you want. You want lenders to report to the credit bureaus, which is why those scores can be different. So I mentioned it's important to have a good credit score for lending purposes because you want that. You want to be able to get approved for a loan. You want to have that good interest rate. But you guys know this, utility companies look at your credit history. Our auto insurance premiums are based on our credit history. So if you have good history, then your insurance agent will be able to offer you their best rates. So credit scores are important, not just to borrow, but the amount of deposit that you would have to put down on utilities. Of course, any type of leasing or renting, those obviously need to have a good credit history or a credit score. And more employers are looking at that credit history as well. Not so much like, only 711 above apply. It's not that. And they're not even looking at that score, but they're looking at that history. I've met some people that work for the prison, and that's a large group of employees out there. And in certain police officers, certain industries, and I've also heard in the medical field as well, they look at that credit history just to make sure there's, not a lot of collections or not a lot of whatever going on. So that can also determine if you can get the job that you would like. So credit scores are important, very important. So let's talk about what makes it up. I like simple. I don't want a list of 25 things because I get lost in the list and I'm like, my brain does not work that way. And so what I like about a credit score is just 5 things. It's just 5 things. 2 of them are real, they're all important. We always want to focus on the whole circle, 100%, but the top 2 you can see are payment history and capacity. That is 65% of your score. So if you can master those and understand how that works, 65% of your score, and those are the high impact. So payment history and capacity, which capacity is what are the balances on your revolving credit? What are your balances on credit cards? Let me go to the next one and we'll talk about a little bit more into detail what all of those are. So 35% of your score is payment history. Are you paying on time? Are your clients paying late? Are there any liens, any judgments? All of that is payment history. That's the biggest bulk. That's the biggest chunk, of your credit score. And so when we work with people and we talk to people in the credit union, we tell them, whatever you do, pay your bills on time. Please pay your bills on time, because I'll show you in a minute what happens if you're reported late and how those scores can just drop pretty quickly. So pay on time every time. And by having that positive payment history, slowly over time, that score will go up. Okay, so payment history is a big, big deal, 35%. Capacity means you've got some credit cards. You have maybe a line of credit, anything that is revolving. We're talking revolving only. What are your balances? So let's just say I have one credit card. I only have one, and it's $1,000 limit. All right, I've got $1,000 limit on my credit card, and my balance, because I don't pay it off in full every month for whatever reason, I just don't. I carry a balance of 500. It's not that much. So if I've got $1,000 limit and my balance is 500, how much of that capacity have I used? I've used 50%. I've used half. FICO says that's too high. FICO likes you to see what's healthy in FICO's eyes is 30% or less capacity used on credit cards. Now, you're still losing points for that, because on capacity, every percent that you use, you lose a half a point. But it's healthy to keep your capacity at 30% or lower. And I will go into a little bit more on that, but that's 30% of your score is how much, what are your balances? How much balances are you keeping? Or are you keeping a balance, carrying a balance, I should say, on your credit card or your line of credit? So 15% is length of credit. So what that means is, if you have credit cards, those credit cards that you've had, we've got some, I've been married a long time. We have credit cards that are 35 years old. We've had them that long. And so keep those active, keep those open, because that's history. That 15% is that history. And what I mean by keep them active is, has anyone had a credit card closed out on them? We have, because we didn't use it. And it may not be that big of a deal. It's a credit card that I didn't use for 10 years or 5 years, whatever it is. I don't really need it. But if I was carrying balances, losing that history, even though it's only 15%, if I'm carrying balances, then let's say this is my limit up here, and I'm down here, I'm good on my capacity. But if that credit card that might be $5,000, $10,000 limit, if that credit card gets closed out, all of a sudden my capacity went up and I lost additional points for that. Does that make sense? So it's all about the percentage of your capacity, keeping your credit cards as low as possible, but make sure you're keeping the cards that you have active, because when they close it out, that's history that you lose. And if you carry balances every month, you also are losing that capacity that can cost you some points. And I'm going to talk a little more about capacity in just a minute, but I just want to kind of mention that. So keeping those cards active, and by active is charge it something, pay it off right away, once or twice a year. It doesn't have to be, I've got to use it every single month.
Is that like major credit cards or like a Kohl's credit card?
Any credit card that has a limit. Credit cards that report limits, yes, because that's how you figure your capacity. All of your credit cards together, whether you have whether you have one or 10, whatever you have, all of those get added together to get all of those limits, all of those balances. So you may have 3 cards that are zero balance, no capacity is being used. You have all of your capacity available, but you've got 3 maxed out cards. You're going to lose some points for that. So that's how you figure your capacity. So 10% of our score is mix of credit. FICO likes to see that you just mix it up. You don't just have 1 or 2 credit cards. And so sometimes adding whether you have a car loan, you've got a mortgage, and a car loan is an installment loan, mixing it up a little bit is 10% of your score. That's what they look at. Now I know we're focusing on the 2 big ones, but to get the whole 100%, that's what they look at. 10% of that is that mix of credit, and then 10% is new credit. Sometimes that's just what it takes to raise a score, is to add credit, but you need to know when to do that. Not when you're getting ready to buy a house, not when you're in, waiting for loan approval and you're under contract and you go buy that perfect new refrigerator that you want for your new house and your credit is pulled. We've all seen that. I used to be in the title business, and the one that always got me, there was one guy that was he was about ready to close, and he bought a motorcycle. And there was a little bit of problem with that. Like, oh. So adding new credit is sometimes what it takes to improve your credit score. But we like to say no more than 3 per year, because every time you have an inquiry, 5 points. So if I go apply for a loan, whether it's a credit card or a car loan or whatever it is, someone pulls my credit, that's a 5-point inquiry, and I lose those 5 points. And then when I get that new trade line, I get approved for that car loan or for that home or a credit card, whatever it may be, any line of any trade line, then I lose an additional 10 points. So each new trade line costs me 15 points for a year, and then I get those back. So that's sometimes how we can let people, give people a 12-month plan, because if we see they have applied for a couple credit cards in August of 20, then in August of 21, they're going to get those points back, because those fall off after about 12 months. So that's how we're able to look and see if points can be gained back in 12 months, if that makes sense. So mortgages and autos, you're allowed to shop for the best rate. So if you were to apply with 2 or 3 lenders, that's just one inquiry. You can have up to 10 pulls in a 30 to 45 day period on autos and a mortgage, and it's just one 5-point inquiry. Now, if you apply for 5 credit cards, that's 25 points. But mortgages and autos, you're allowed to shop for. And then once that trade line is, you establish that trade line, then it's that additional 10 points. Okay. All right, I bet I got the mouse to sleep. Let's see. Oh, I have to tap it. All right.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so we know what makes up our score. There's nothing in there about your income. It doesn't matter where you work, where you live, any of that stuff, or a credit score. It's just those 5 parts, if that's something you're really wanting to hone in and understand and improve a credit score. So let's talk about what hurts your credit score. I mentioned pay on time every single time. If you are reported as a 30-day late on a loan, it's 60 points. And lenders, we report every single month. We have to report, and we report to all 3 bureaus on every loan that we have, and we let them know this loan was paid for this amount on this date. And so that's what goes to the credit bureau. That's how they pick up that reporting. How people talk about, I need some reporting on my credit. Well, those are the reportings that the lenders send to the credit bureau. So a 30-day late is 60 points.
For one late payment?
One 30-day late. Not if my bill is due on the 2nd and I pay it on the 3rd. No.
Okay.
It's 30 days. Okay. I'm due on the 1st and I forget. I just
Next month
I
on the
pay it
7th.
30 points. I mean 60 points. 30 days, 60 points.
So then if someone goes 3 months in a row, for whatever reason, they're really behind, so it's a 90-point drop.
It is. So if you let it go to the next 30 days, we're at 60 days late, it's 15 points. If you let it go to 90 days, it's an additional 15 points. So it's about 90 points if you go that long, if you let it go for just 3 months, 90 days. And then we're into 120, and then that's going off to our friendly collectors.
And then when they pay it, then it will go back up the 20-point
At-
or 70-point.
It'll go up. So let's say we've got a 30-day, by bringing that current, you get 40 back. You get the other 20 eventually. It takes about 2 years for those 20 points to kind of trickle in as FICO's, and we don't know their model. We don't know how they do that, but you can get those points back. So that's why we say, please pay your bills on time every single time. It's so important, because 40, you'll get 40 back if you are a 30-day late, but you've lost those 60 points. Yes, ma'am.
How did COVID affect all this with the government saying, you can stay where you are and not pay your rent and all that stuff? How did that impact?
Have you seen any of that, Brad? I'm gonna say on rent, a rent is not, because it's not a loan, that's not reported to the credit bureaus.
I've
did
seen a
you-
lot of use of, they're using the classification as affected by natural disaster
Yes,
for COVID. So it's like,
They're not
almost
taking-
like if a hurricane is slapped on your mortgage, you won't get as many rates. Same idea with COVID as a natural.
So you'll
disaster.
see it, but you guys aren't taking,
It wouldn't weigh it as harshly, basically.
okay, so, just because I know, at least I feel like right now, I've been hearing it over and over again with a circle of friends. Medical bills, we're not gonna pay that bill, and, you know, there are people wanting to buy and build, and I'm like, I don't think that's true, guys.
Yeah, I mean, medical bills count against you. They do.
So I
So
think
they'll
that-
count against your score.
Well,
But-
they'll
And
say
and they're
that,
not
but,
paused because of COVID.
correct, well, they're like, oh, well, they'll see it, but the lender, like you guys, like, but they'll see it and it will affect your score, but they don't hold it against you. I'm like, I don't think that's
I don't
true.
really hold it, depending on the medical, I really won't hold it against.
Right, right.
So what if it affects their score so greatly that,
They could get the fine if it's that.
If it's that,
I
right.
had just 4 medical corrections
Mhm.
on this one, and it dropped as well, they couldn't even get approved. And they were $7, $81. $11. But one
Which is-
$11 medical collection was just crushed.
I know.
Oh.
I know, and that's why we so recommend CSAs, because not everybody even knows they have these medical
A lot of
collections.
times it's their kids too, their kids' bills.
yeah.
you know,
Yes.
they didn't-
Yeah, like if
Yes.
you have like a teenager that's on your
Absolutely.
medical insurance and then,
Or the bill was paid, and you know what? People just put it in.
Yeah.
wrong.
there-
We've
that
seen
actually- that was- that
$25
happened with me with the
copays.
Medical Center of Southeast Texas, and it was over $1,100, and I never knew that they had sent it to me.
Yeah.
To this day, I have no idea how they got this address that I hadn't lived at since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And
Right.
I was like, I don't know what this is, and whenever, you know, whatever, it was preventative, like you guys said, it was covered at no cost. And they went back, well, it was a number that I hadn't had since I was like a teenager. I've never been to this hospital before, and an address I hadn't lived at. I was like, I've never received any of these bills.
How would I know?
And so they got it taken off, and then they sent a letter to, all the agencies to
Yes.
get it removed.
That's good, that's
And
good.
So I never
But-
knew it was there.
But that was not a pleasant experience, was it? It's a
No.
pain in the behind to do that,
Put
so.
it on there real quick, but getting it off.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So medical is, yes, it does count. And it can affect your score. Now, there's been talk for years that they're not gonna look at that, but that hasn't come through yet, has it? I didn't think so. I hadn't heard it. So they're still like, one day we're gonna get that off, because there's a lot, but a lot of them are $70,
Yeah. A
$60.
little
So,
bit of, you know, you did your copay, well, it turns out they didn't cover it, so now you owe the other half.
right.
You Thought it was covered.
So looking at your credit report once a year, we recommend that to everyone we talk to, no matter what class I'm teaching or who I'm talking to. I'm like, look at your credit report once a year. Now, if you're borrowing on a regular basis, then you'll see it. But for those that, you know, I mean, I've been in my house for a while. I haven't had a car payment in a while. I'm not buying anything. So I don't even remember the last time my credit was pulled. So has somebody else pulling my credit and using my name? And if they are, they're certainly not going to give them my address. So I would have no way of knowing, kind of like you had no way of
Yeah,
knowing
not
that was on there. And it could have been on there for 5 years, 2 years, who knows? So, yeah, it's important to look. It's very important to look. So you can see, pay on time every time. We say that constantly. Now, another thing that we learned when we were doing this, doing all of our CSA and learning how we, you know, can help people with their credit report and their credit scores, know that, and that was a great question. If you're 1 or 2 days late, no, that's not going to affect your credit score. It will affect, you're going to have late fees, you know, things like that, because it's due on the 1st, but they'll accept it till the 15th or whatever. You know, there's that grace period. So you're usually okay on that. But credit card companies also have a due date, but they also have a cutoff time. And so for people that are really trying to manage their credit score, and they need to do whatever it can, you know, to make sure, or they just are savvy on what's going on, that cutoff time might be, and it's in the fine print, that cutoff time might be 5 p.m. So my bill might be due on the 15th, and I'm going to get home, it's 5 or 6, and I'm going to have dinner, and I'm going to, you know, do what I do. And then I'm getting ready to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go pay my bill. And I go on and pay it at 10 or 11. I'm like, oh, I'm in before midnight. I'm good. I'm not late. But that cutoff time at 5 p.m., which might be Eastern time, which is 4 for us. So you need to know that that's what affects your rate. And so for those that have a credit card that maybe they got with that good rate at 4 or 5 or 6% when they first got that credit card, and you're never late. You pay it all the time. You're never late. But you've noticed that credit score, that interest rate might be 15 now. It might be 21 now. It might be 27 now. Why is my interest rate going up? And if you were in after that cutoff time, that could affect any of those introductory rates you might lose, or it can affect your interest rate. So know what that cutoff time is. And so what we like to say, pay your bills on time every time, and on time is 2 days early. Then you don't have to worry. It's there. You're not late. You won't lose that interest rate. And it's just one of the little things that we learned as we do our CSAs. So I won't go over in detail anymore about capacity unless you all have questions, but this is how you calculate your capacity. You have your total balances on all of your credit cards, all revolving. Line of credit, whatever's revolving, you do balances, you divide it by the limits, and you figure out that capacity use. So FICO says 30% or lower is considered healthy. Well, according to this calculation, if I'm at 30% capacity, I'm still going to lose 15 points, or my score is 15 points lower than it could be if I brought those balances down. So whatever the capacity is of you or your clients, a half a point for every percent capacity.
That's all
Use.
cards added.
All cards added together. And that's just kind of like if you're at 50% today, my capacity is at 50%. My credit score could be 25 points higher if I pay them all off. If I keep it or pay them down. I mean, if I want to gain those points, yes. Now, if I brought 50 down to 25, well, then I'm going to gain, 12 something points, things like that. Does that make sense? So this is what we look at when we do that CSA, because we figure out that capacity, and it's like you could gain, and if you're maxed out, that's 50 points. If all of the credit cards are maxed out, that's 50 points that your score has been dropped. And then once you gain that capacity back, you pay it down, and so your capacity is, not at 100%, it's at 2%, then you gain those points back. I mean, you've got to have the money to be able to do that, but capacity is 30. That's a big hit. That's 30% of your score. And so I'm going to quickly go over. I've got just an example. This is an auto loan, and we've got someone with a 600 score, and we have someone with a 700 score. They're buying the exact same car, same terms, $25,000 car for 72 months. It's about a $50 difference in payment. So this is why it's important to have a good credit score when you're buying something, especially when it's terms. And 50 is like, it's not that much, but over 6-7 years, that's a lot of money. And so that's about a $3,800 difference over the terms that you would save by having just a 700 credit score as opposed to a 600 credit score. Now, if that dropped down, that 600 dropped down to $599, I believe that rate goes to 10. I know, it's a lot.
Well, and if somebody could afford the 429, you could have a more expensive vehicle. If they can afford the note at 429 because their interest rate was lower, then your budget could be
Sure.
increased.
Absolutely. So, and like 275, that's not our lowest rate right now is 1.75 on autos, as low as 1.75.
Does that include the price of the vehicle and your credit score? Like would you offer 1.75 for like a $30,000 vehicle?
Yes, our lowest rate, our optimal rate is 760. So 760 and above, you get our best rate, which is 1.75 for autos right now. Now we have a minimum. I don't have that number in my head. I'm sorry. It's not going to be on a $10,000 car, but yeah, a 30,000, 50,000. I don't think it would, but it might be. I need to look on that. I'm sorry, I don't know what our minimum is for that, but it is as low as 1.75 right now.
And is there a term limit, a term minimum? Because sometimes like you'll have like the lower rates, but then if you go out like 84 months, then
Usually
Right.
it would be a bond.
That would, and I'm going to say that's probably going to go to maybe 72.
Just because it'll depreciate by the time you get rid of it.
right,
high seventies, eighties.
Right. right. Obviously, for mortgages, there's a much bigger number of savings. You know, we're talking $50 a month for an auto, but a difference between just 100-point difference on a mortgage over the lifetime of that 30-year note, that's $100,000 that you would save in interest. So it adds up.
To this point here, with these crazy rate drops, after COVID, I refinanced my own home. And obviously I know how to do the math on it. What I did was a savings of over $114,000 to go from a 3.8 to a 2. I got a 2.
Yeah.
And it's just
Mhm.
What,
insane.
and your month, and you kept, did you shorten your term?
I did shorten it, so I'm for raising it some.
Yeah,
To cut the
To
time in
do-
half.
yeah,
Some
Absolutely,
people want their notice all possible. 30 years versus the 15 years.
Yeah.
sure.
because I'm thinking in 15 years, do I want to be mortgage free?
That's-
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, it's, you know, it's just how do you want to work it? What's the best way for your clients? You know, it might, some people start off with 15, which is great. But those, you know, rates are really good right now. What are rates going to do in the future? Who knows? What did you say?
They're gonna go up.
They're gonna go up.
They've been ticking up.
They have, you know, but what are the, we don't know how high, where, you know, there's lots of talk, there's lots of rumors, you know, we don't know. But, so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts on credit score. So having a good credit score will help you and your clients save money. It will allow them to get the house that they want, speedier credits usually. There's just lots of different things for borrowing, but keep in mind, our auto premiums are based on that. Some employers, you know, there's a little bit more to it. And then, oh, and this is just our CSA. Please send your clients, that's just our QR code that it'll just take you to our mobile X if you wanted to do that online. But if there is, you know, if we can help any of your clients, at least just so they can kind of, you know, get a grip on their score. Just, and I also would advise you to do it once a year to just make sure there's nothing on your credit report. You know, like you said with your collections, our son-in-law they moved, they changed all of their stuff from one house to the next. AT&T didn't. They canceled their stuff at the old house. They're paying their new bill. And so 2 years later, he had 2 big old fat collection items on his credit report that dropped him 100 points. And so it was hours and hours and hours on the phone to say, we canceled, you know, we've never been late. We moved.
And we're still with you.
You messed up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You didn't transfer the balance.
Absolutely. So there's, you know, it's not like you don't know where we are. So, but that's just some things that we just need to kind of make sure that you take a look at that. So you can come in and do a CSA. We also recommend annualcreditreport.com is a safe place to go to request your credit report and look at all 3, because, you know, not all lenders report to all 3. So I'm going to let Brad, he's got a few things to say about mortgages. Any questions? I mean, we'll stay or do whatever we need to do, but any questions that y'all have, just let us know.
I'm gonna stay on credit for a little bit, actually. So y'all know about PMI, I'm sure, private mortgage insurance. That's also risk-based. So the person that has a medical collections who would have perfect credit, not only are they paying a higher interest rate, but much higher for PMI. I'm talking instead of $70, $250. I mean, it's very risk-based on the PMI. I mean, I'll have someone with perfect credit on a $400,000 home paying $80 in PMI, whereas someone 640, $150,000 home paying $150, $200. So it really hurts their buying power, those medical bills, not to mention your normal collection. So if y'all have 2 borrowers, spouses, and they both apply, I'm going to drop both of their high scores and both of their low scores, put their middles next to each other and go with the lower of the 2. So normally, if you tell them, whoever the breadwinner is, whether it's him or her, and if they have the better credit, they can apply to use their score and their earnings. Now, if they're the breadwinner with the poor credit, we still need them on there. That's the only way to count their income. So they just got to do that. But if they ever can't make it, especially with me, I put a plan together and we refer them for a CSA. And I tell them it's a 30-year deal. If it takes you a year to get there, like we can do. Because they always want it right now, or their lease is up in a month and a half. I mean, y'all know how it is. But we have a lot of products right now. We have conventional mortgage, 5% down. I have jumbo mortgages. That's going to be 20% down on anything jumbo over the 548,000. I do have VA loans, 0% down. Barn dominium loans, we're writing those right now. That's going to cap at a 20-year term. And I do want 20% down on a barn dominium. Construction is really big right now, believe it or not, even with the prices of lumber, which is, I'm having people at the closing table wanting another $70,000 builders. I mean, it's wild just from start to finish how much it's costing them. But those are still real popular. What's cool with the construction is if they own the land and have the equity in the land's the down payment. They don't even have to put money down. We just take over lien position on the land and they just pay closing costs. There's a misconception that there's no money to close, but I can't pay for services with your equity, right? I have to pay the title company, of course, the realtor and everything else. Really, that's the gist of what I have product wise. I mean, is there any questions or anything y'all are wondering when it
So
comes
the
to?
equity in the land that, say they haven't paid off all their land, but. They have
I'll
some
take the
equity.
equity they have and I'll take that lien. So I'll pay that lien off. So I'm first lien position. Let's say it's worth 60 and they owe 40. I'm going to give them 20,000 in equity towards the construction. And depending on the construction, it could take up the down payment. You only need 5% down on construction. A lot of times on these land deals, which we offered land as well, 20% down on land. I'll put them on a 5-year term, tell them come back and see me. And now the land's paid off. They paid it, like a car note, $300, what have you. And now they have 50,000 down to build their home because their land is now paid off. So a lot of people I have doing that right now didn't expect the cost of construction to be where it is. So it's amazing. You can't build as much of the home as you would have. And I had people that finished right before this went wild that are obviously thrilled because they beat the lumber prices. But
I have some friends that built in Dallas, and I'm about a year ago, and I was like, do we want to sell? I'm like,
Oh, no.
because they are
Absolutely.
sitting on a gold.
but you give a lot of it back on the next
Yeah,
one, right?
right.
It's the thing, you get it back on the next one.
Yes,
You've got to
yes,
move somewhere.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you guys, just squeaked, and they were like, because they're in an area in Dallas with like a new subdivision, new construction. They were like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be homeless is what's gonna happen.
They will, they will. And I've met some people in different communities that we are in that were going to build a stick house,
Mhm.
but not with the prices, so they switched to barn dominiums, which we do as well. And are y'all seeing a lot of those? Do y'all have, we get calls for,
There were talk of them now.
Right.
yeah,
5 years ago.
oh, sure,
Well, I think they would probably need, it's like finding land that's not restricted to allow,
True.
Right, true,
you know?
true.
But the question is, in my mind, why is lumber so high? Who's making the difference? I mean, a tree's a tree. and it's
Yeah, I mean, the
growing.
inflation, if you figure it out,
It's
let me know. Yeah, I mean, it's,
All the gas prices go up.
I think it's just supply and demand.
So when was it the ice storm? No, when the hurricane hit, they were loading truckloads from the Lowe's in New Mexico and bringing it to Lake Charles. And it had to go so far to get
more.
supplies. So it really took a hit.
When we had a
And-
conference call with some builders and they don't think it's gonna go back down.
That was the
They
next.
think this is
question.
it. This is where we are. That's what they said. This is how much. And not to mention, y'all know this as well as me. If we're in Copper Point and there's 15 comps that sold for 480, this new house that's comparable is 480 essentially. I mean, they can't go back to where the price was when every other house on the block.
All the appraisers have figured
No. Hey, speaking of appraisers, if y'all have any that aren't busy, give me their number.
So yesterday I have clients that have land and they wanted to they're talking about, they're only gonna get a cracker box for a house because of the way prices are. And they want to wait till it goes down. I told them, I said, I can't imagine that happening. Right now, they've probably stretched it to as high as they can get it. And then it'll absorb for maybe a while and not go up anymore. But I don't see how it can.
One on that same Zoom call, they were saying, God forbid, if there's a hurricane this summer,
Right.
the prices are just gonna be, and they already are astronomical, but it's just gonna be
Unaffordable.
just unbelievable. I mean,
Charlie was telling us, he is involved with all of the economic development committees and the ports and
all of that. So he kind of, he'll just ask people. And so he talked to the port commissioner of the Port of Port Arthur, which is a giant hub for lumber. And he said that it's not an issue of the supply, it's a supply chain issue, the logistical aspect of it. And so he anticipates the lumber prices stabilizing. He didn't say going down, he said
Right.
stabilizing by the fourth quarter of this year. Because now that people are showing that they're willing to pay for it, even if they're back
Well,
into the
yeah.
corner,
That's right.
they're not
Yeah.
gonna go
That's
back
right.
down
No.
significantly.
Why would
But they're
they?
not going to increase. He said you may see them dip a little bit just because people are outraged, but they're not,
Right.
now that they know that they can get it,
Uh-huh.
and there's such a demand for housing that's putting pressure on these developers and builders, it's gonna be what it's gonna be for a while. But it's not a supply thing, it's a supply
Okay,
chain
interesting.
thing, which was interesting to me too.
Absolutely. Good old Charlie.
He knows all these
He
things.
does.
At what point do they call it gouging?
I know it.
I mean, it feels like it right now. I mean, it really does. Especially when, you know,
Because it's across the board, it's not empty.
Yeah.
That's right, they're all
It's
doing it.
everywhere. It's not.
it's just wild to
lumber,
see
it's
because we all see,
paint,
you know,
everything.
the inventory in the same, I'm looking at the plans, it's the same plans I was looking at last year. And it's 100,000 more. I mean, oh, yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Price.
Like I said, I had closings canceled because they want another 70 grand. Like, hey, deal's off, I need another.
It's like, did you really
It's
want a
gonna
bathroom?
cost me 70.
Well,
Yeah.
I just recently got, like, I'm going to be adding one to my house,
Uh-huh.
and for a bedroom and a bathroom was
Wow.
$90,000. And so I'm gonna pay the price of the starter. for a
Right.
bedroom.
You can't even build a fence right now unless you really want to pay for it.
And then to Heather's point, when does the appraisals catch up to that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really, they say in 6 months, but at some point, you know, if we make an adjustment for 10,000 or 5,000 per bedroom, 10,000 per bathroom, you know, that's not true.
It's not the accurate adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was pulling comps just yesterday, and I'm like, our trend is 6 months, but the market 6 months ago was different than it was 3 months ago. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
I'm not, and I said, I'm not gonna pull 6 months back. I
Right.
need to look right now.
Right.
Because it was just different.
And they seem to be flying. I mean, is things still moving really quickly for y'all?
I had somebody that fell through of it. Lady paid $400,000 for it.
Mhm.
Back with the appraisal, and she did like lots of improvements. The appraisal came in, she paid 400, the appraisal came in 404. But all this stuff she'd done.
Wow.
And on top of the, that big hurdle, it came back out, still under appraisal, it came up. a little bit. We pointed out the house was worth $30,000.
Hmm.
Then the buyers got on the internet and found out that they were going to pay taxes. So they got the new tax appraisal, almost 500.
I'm sure.
He was appraising it under the new tab value.
They appraised it for.
That's just wild.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's just
That
wild.
is
It used to
crazy.
be like about 70%. You could rely on that
yeah.
ad being about 70% of that.
Yeah. Because of the appraisal and the tax, the new tax.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is retired couple, and they didn't want to have to start fighting. with it.
Right.
The appraisal district, the appraisal for 498 or 4,
Wow.
So there's lots of little things that happen that we have no control over. And just because one person, an appraisal who had obviously not looked at the comps that he used,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just total screw up. That's what
Yeah.
it is. But we have to now start all over again.
Oh, goodness.
Jeez.
No, it's a strange time, isn't it? Crazy market. So has inventory, I get all the MLS,
It's
numbers.
still low.
And the last report that I got from the board was,
1.8.
yeah, I was gonna say 7, 8, 9, one of those months of inventory.
So we're a little bit better up there. I mean, yeah, I can feel it.
Sure.
I don't care what the numbers say, but now I'm not, you know, I tried to write 5 this weekend and I only had one was a multiple offer. And that's completely unusual right
Nice.
now.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Well, I know when our daughter and son-in-law, they did sell their house in Columbus last spring and they had multiple offers.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
It comes.
it's
Yeah.
Collinsville,
Yeah.
out 10 minutes out of Collinsville.
We're
So
very
you're
proud of houses out there.
And they had beautiful property, but it was just like, they had 3 offers.
Well, and I'm seeing that happen too, because you can't can't build, so they're going after the existing ones.
Exactly.
Well, Como still has hardware and land, so that's just gold when you're coming
Yeah.
to California.
That's true, and yeah, and there's a lot of Californians.
Yeah.
that live out there, and they do.
Yeah, they
They
need that
do,
internet
they
to work
do.
right.
Yeah, That's
Oh,
all they
you're
want,
welcome.
so,
You're
yeah.
so welcome. So take that information with you. We have, if you need any additional flyers on credit score for your clients, please take some or send them our way. We would love to help them with their credit scores. The CSAs are great.
People
So
love
They
them,
need to
yeah.
have an account,
No?
okay, because I get a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would love for them to be able
Absolutely.
to
I bet
know
we
where
can
to
win them
go.
over. I
Yeah.
think we can win
One
There
them
you
over.
little
go.
girl just, I mean, they really want a house, but she's like, I've got to find a couple of these medical things.
Right.
And she said, and then they're okay.
But
Well,
they can
make that
usually,
decision.
kind of handle those medicals down too.
Yeah, sometimes you can on those and just advise her to not do credit repair unless you know who you're working with. So,
Well, so
there
I
are
told them
some
that,
good
because
ones.
I'm mobile oil for years, like
Mhm.
25 years. And y'all did that to us when we were younger. And I always tell them that you need to go to your credit union. You need to
Absolutely,
sit down and ask somebody.
absolutely.
But if y'all do it without them being
Right.
an accountant,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. And so they can, I don't know exactly how they do it, but they do, because normally you need a member number, whatever, but they're able to do something.
I found it, I
They
send it
can-
out a lot because I get a lot of non-members that
Yes,
apply.
yes.
And it is on our website. You fill out
Okay.
a questionnaire.
Yes.
It's
yes.
under services, I believe.
well, then I need to just
And
clean that
now-
up so that I can go ahead and give that to them. Because I
Absolutely.
mean, I really do get a lot.
A lot.
Do they call or email the questionnaire? Do you know?
If you do, the outbound callers. Yeah, so they will either get a call or they could come in.
Yeah.
And, meet with someone and they could just do it right there with them. And, just kind of walking through that to explain it, are there some things that we can, we know what makes it go up and down.
Mhm.
And are there some things that we can give them information to help them? So we'd be happy to
I'm
do
gonna
that.
grab an extra brochure. I'm not gonna take.
Well, sure, and grab
No,
grab
I'll
a,
probably use it.
Now, oh, yes, and there's a whole stack up there, so take all that you
okay.
need. Please
How
take
do
all
you
that
guys feel about, the Experian credit app? I hate Credit Karma, I hate Vantage Score, right?
right.
But I downloaded, Experian like a couple of years ago,
Okay.
well, maybe two. And, then I optionally pay for, like, I think it's $20 so I can pull TransUnion
Uh-huh.
and Equifax. And, I have been a member with Do Good and I've never had a mortgage, but, I paid for it because Do Good, when I do an auto loan, they exclusively pull from Equifax. So I need, like,
Right.
Experian is different. And so I
Uh-huh.
was like, that's great that I have my Experian score, but I really need to monitor Equifax.
Right.
I know,
Um,
I know.
But I was telling Kate, I'm a credit like Nazi.
Uh-huh.
And so,
You have to be.
That's why I
know,
do.
right?
Yeah.
and I was like, I thought I was doing something really good by paying something off.
Yeah.
60-point drop.
Are you paid off and close in?
I finally got the magical 812.
Yeah,
Right down, it was by 738.
That's so hard to sit there. It's
I
so
know.
much easier to
Right.
sit at the high 700s.
It
It's so
is.
much
It
easier.
is easier.
Now it's back up. They're all three like I don't know anyone around here that pulls exclusively from TransUnion.
right.
That's my highest one. I'm like, I don't ever use it, but it's finally creeping back up. But I was like, I'm
Good.
so excited. I'll reach
know.
this magical
And
800
you
credit
paid that
score.
off.
I'm like,
I know.
okay, watch, it's gonna, if there's a 900, I'm coming. And so I'm watching because I know like the baby's gonna report. And I'm waiting, it's like 3 weeks later and I'll refresh it and I'm just waiting. And I'm like, I could have puked. I almost called Brandy. She doesn't work anymore with Brandy and Lumberton. Campbell, she got married, but I was like, reverse it, put my loans back on, like right now. Like,
Yeah,
because
don't pay me off.
yeah, no, I mean, they won't allow, at the time, they won't allow your auto loan to be paid farther than 3 months in advance, and I get a call. Ms. Cantu, we're gonna have to reverse your auto payment. I'm like, and they would always catch me around like the end of the month. I said, so in 3 days, I can remake it again. They were like, yes, ma'am. I was like, every once in a while,
Wow,
that is
that's really-
I can only pay
that's
2 months in advance. And they're
Wow.
like, okay, well, you reverse it, put it back in the account, and then I'll repay it again. So I'm just
Wow.
like, I'm not trying to escape.
I know.
They're strict.
I'm sorry we missed you today. I didn't know it was mobile. I'm doing, I think, 1 or 2 loans with somebody from Mobile Credit.
We
Union.
did, Majors.
Oh,
Right.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vivian Majors.
Oh, yeah, I got confused a couple of times, I think.
I'm Beth Kirk, the team
Thank you.
leader. Yeah. And then we're doing somebody else, your, Mary, what's her name? Forty. She's gonna do, she called you about a bridge loan, but she's gonna pay off her house, but we're buying another house, and so y'all are doing that conventional until she closes on this house.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Well,
now I
thank
get
you
to
for
put
that.
Face with names.
Yeah.
because I hate to say it, but I was a Jessica fan, because she, with Jessica, she's
Oh,
gone now.
um,
What's her name?
Sanchez?
Hispanic.
yes, Sanchez.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Sanchez.
Yes, I
So
love
when
Jessica.
Jessica left, I was like, well, I'm done with trouble.
I know.
So I need a new.
Like, give me a try, please.
Absolutely.
We've really changed a lot. I mean, we doubled our staff in our department.
Wow, yeah, she
Yes.
was it.
Yeah, we got
She
a lot
was
of stuff
it.
going.
She went through real estate school at the same time I did. We graduated together. from Real estate
Really?
school, and she did that for a while, and then she went into the lending.
Okay,
So
okay.
is Lynn McCoy?
Lynn, oh, yes. Lynn,
I used to work there. I worked
oh,
there.
did you? Oh, gosh, yeah. So
But it's
Lynn,
been 16 years,
well, Lynn celebrated this year
40 years.
39.
39.
39.
Oh,
I
my
think it was,
goodness.
look, it gives me goosebumps. I
Yeah,
just because.
wow.
40 years,
No,
that's
I think it
insane.
was 39, but
Yeah.
40, call it
Sure,
40.
sure.
Gosh, 40 years.
Crazy.
I think this has been her only job.
Yeah, I think that.
Cause we
She
have
was
little,
my
you know,
supervisor.
we'll have little banners say Brad, 5 years or so 2 years. And then
Yeah.
that one came across, I was like, whoa.
See, that's how we feel.
World.
Hester.
Hester,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
Hester
literally.
is your Lynn.
Icon.
It's an icon, exactly.
And then
So,
Jared was my,
yes.
Jared was, when he first started in Lumberton.
Lumberton.
And I would go in, I'd say, hey, I need to put this in. I wouldn't have to do a deposit. He knew all my account numbers. He was just like,
Amazing.
I'm like, dude, how do I do this? Oh,
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And
He's
then
the
I
best.
walk into new people and they're like, I'm sorry, what's your account number? I'm like, I don't know.
Jared.
Yeah, it's-
Jared, I don't, yeah, Jared knows.
So
my
that's what
stuff.
it was like with Brandy at You Good, like I would, the last couple auto loans I did was through text message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I
what
know.
I had Jared's cell phone number.
Yeah, that's how I was with
Like I have
Brandy.
to make myself not text
So
Jared. on
she
stuff.
started out just like, like a bank.
It's
Jared
8
doesn't
o'clock
do
at
that.
night. I probably shouldn't text him.
And then I had Verizon, there was an Isaiah, and he was so good. I had Isaiah over. I'm like, hey, it doesn't work anymore. Stop texting the man.
It was. That's how it was whenever I was at
Yes.
Brandy. Many times I would go in there and like cry because I've always been weird about my code. Like 701. What do I do?
I'm the opposite. I'm like, Jared, just take care of it.
I
I don't care.
know.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, Jared, he is the manager over, one of our managers over all of our smart offices now. And
Oh,
so he's been promoted.
He just goes up, up, up.
He is awesome.
And he looks like a little 10-year-old church
He
boy.
does. Thank you, ladies, and he's so nice to meet you.
He's
Yes,
so
but
funny.
hey, I do.
Oh.
I
He'll
want to
never
talk
age.
to you about-
Yeah.
There's lunch, if y'all want to grab some lunch, please. Oh, you
Okay,
did.
so tell me your names. I can't
I'm
see.
Lori Higgins.
Lori
And I
Higgins.
do business and community development, so I do our financial
Look at that.
education, so I travel around to all of our branches and do classes and
Okay.
things.
So you're the connection on that side.
Absolutely, and so I'm the external person, and so Brad Greer is in our mortgage department, so Lana Floyd
Well, at least I
is
think
our
it's-
assistant vice president over mortgage. Okay, so she, used to be in mortgage, went into our risk and fraud department for a while, and so we moved her back to mortgage, and she has they've completely restructured, just like Brad said, it is doubled, if
Yeah.
not more
Yeah.
than doubled our staff, and so it is a great, well, you've been working with us, so they do a really
They
great
collected
job.
people from around town, myself included.
Absolutely, so that we,
Where were you before that?
Education first for about 5.5 years.
We have been with Education First our entire 33 years of marriage, and I've cursed them for about 20 minutes. Anyway, we're with Mobile, and so we have, Alan just retired, so all the money's going into Mobile, so I could probably get him out of Education First. But he's like, no, we need more than one bank, just.
sure, no, that's,
Yeah, yeah.
that's great,
But,
that's great.
No, I try to steer. I do have Chase on my preferred, I have 5 lenders on my preferred lender
Uh-huh.
list, so you have to work your way up. But I give you a try. I tell everybody, I'll give you one try.
Absolutely.
And, but I have her on there only because some people want a bank.
They do,
Like,
they
they're
do.
old and,
They
they want
do,
a
even
bank.
though I want to
So
say,
that's the
don't
only
do it. Oh, 'cause
person.
when I was in television,
Oh
when people
my
say, we're doing our
gosh.
one with Bank of
Wells
America, I'm like,
Fargo, Bank
please,
of America. I'm like,
could you do
"Ah!"
anybody?
I mean, I'll tell people, we're not
UBA.
accepting your contract if you go with Wells
I mean,
Fargo.
the only
Oh.
issue I deal with when it comes to like member service is how long appraisals are taking, you know.
And
Sure.
that's
Like,
nobody's
cross
They're not under
guard.
my thumb. I can't be like, oh,
Right.
get out.
I know.
But
We've
it's hard to
tried. Can we
explain
pay you
to-
more? Oh, one appraiser got so offended because, you know, Bubba Treadway died. And so he's like, yeah, I know you're pushing me and I know you want this, but you realize a man died. And I was like, I'm sorry. But, you know, I'm just
Yeah.
like, can we pay you extra? And he's like, there is no more of me.
I know.
I can't do any more than what I'm doing.
I know. I know.
I don't know these
know.
guys that are working 7 days a week and have.
They have been.
Right.
And they're making money. hand
They're
over fist.
making, they're rolling in it.
Yeah.
And
They
then,
are.
I
they're
hope they're
doing-
saving it because you can't be like this forever. You
No,
wouldn't do
No,
that.
the bubble's
no.
gonna end.
Yeah.
I
But they
know.
also are doing refis for, they're getting refinanced and,
I had so many refinances
Yeah.
taking all the
So
appraisals
that-
away.
and they're also doing,
All right,
their
so,
Help you out
property
here.
yes,
values are up, so they think if they get an
Stop
appraisal, they can go
this
fight it. So they're paying an
and
appraiser to go out
this.